Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's ToHealth Live workshop. We're talking about today the science of giving and the epigenome. My name is Joe Nicholson, and I'll be facilitating today's call. Today's call is only 30 minutes, so I will hopefully give you some food for thought within today's session. And the objective of today's session is to highlight the health benefits of giving to others. This could be donations, it could be paying it forward, could be giving time, your knowledge, volunteering. Of course, we're coming up to Christmas, so it definitely is the time for giving. However, within this session, some attention is definitely going to be paid towards what this could mean for our genes and our future generations' genes too. If you've got any questions or you'd like to get in touch, there is some information in the Q&A about that. Also, I'll kind of refer to how you can get in touch as well at the end of the session, just to remind you. So the opening image may be a little bit misleading. Yes, this time of year is the time for giving, but this session today isn't necessarily about gifts and anything of monetary value, although let's not rule that out. But here's what we're going to cover within today's section. So the outline, we're going to be looking at giving and helping others, and the social connectedness as well, how we can really highlight that, how we can really push for that within ourselves, encourage other people to get involved, help us high, a little bit of science that we're starting to get into at that point, and then further science going even deeper to think about the epigenome and epigenetics and how we can affect that with some acts of kindness, epigenetic markers, what they actually are, research and reducing the impact of stress, really trying to promote kindness at that point and encourage people to use that this time of year, but throughout the entire year as well, and the health benefits of volunteering. So all of that will be covered within this session today. So I'd first like to introduce the 5 ways to wellbeing, a strategy developed from evidence gathered in the UK through the Foresight Project on Mental Capital and Wellbeing. The project, published in 2008, drew on state-of-the-art research about mental wellbeing through life, and from its findings they came up with the 5 ways to wellbeing, which were established, which are connect, and there's multiple different ways that we can connect, so we'll kind of delve into that a little bit within this session. Being active, taking notice, so that could really be about being in the here and the now, being mindful, keep learning, and giving as well. So some organisations that we currently work with have adapted such a model to guide wellbeing in the workplace. It's of no coincidence that the 5 ways to wellbeing encompasses the fundamental benefits one obtains from actually volunteering. So volunteering does encompass the value of social connection, whilst also giving the opportunity to do something good for the community, discovering a new activity you enjoy and being able to connect to the world around you. Although volunteers devote time to helping others, it's not uncommon for the volunteer to also experience positive mental and psychological and physical benefits. In fact, volunteering offers a wide range of emotional, social, psychological, and biological health benefits. So I'd just like you to take a moment right now to think, which one would you say that you do more of out of the 5 ways to wellbeing that are currently there? So which one do you currently do more of? And then you can start to think about, which one could you actually work on? And of course, we'll delve into that in a bit more detail within the session to focus on things like connect and focus on things like giving as well. So when you take the time to volunteer, you might find that shared experiences, it helps you to build quality relationships with like-minded people. Working to create meaningful social connections with others can give a profound impact on your overall well-being and your mental health. In fact, it's not uncommon for lifelong friendships to be made when volunteering due to the shared hobbies or passions. And the mere act of actually volunteering, it does create an overall sense of social resilience as well, ultimately building on strong support networks to allow everybody to be involved. So from a 75-year Harvard study, Robert J. Valdinger found that social connection is really good for us. So he added that it turns out those that are more socially connected are happier, physically healthier, live longer, and than those that are actually less connected. And also from the same study, it was said that loneliness is really bad for our health. In fact, loneliness is likely to increase your risk of death by 28%. It's also seen to be, in some situations, worse than smoking 15 cigarettes a day or being obese. not that we're kind of, going down that path within this session. So feeling lonely isn't in itself a mental health problem, but the two are certainly linked, and having mental health problems can increase your chances of feeling lonely, of course. One common misconception about loneliness is the feeling that we get when we are completely separated from other people, but actually you can still get the feeling of loneliness when you are around other people. It's just that connection, that deep, meaningful connection that might be missing at that point. So those that are more socially connected are happier, physically healthier, live longer than those that are less well connected. So again, just take a moment to think who makes up your social network. And certainly this time of year, is that something that you should be reaching out for? Is that some people that you should be reaching out to? We're going to move on at this point to talk about helpers high. So this is essentially just to start off a little bit of the science as to why giving is good for us. And helpers high is the name given to that feeling of well-being that follows an opportunity to extend an act of kindness to somebody. It's that buzz that we feel, a feel-good fact that we might get, that rush of endorphins that we might experience. For example, after volunteering, you might find yourself thinking, well, I actually got a lot out of that myself, rather than just helping other people out. And this feeling is one version of the helper's high. It's part of human evolution, really. When we help other people, it really just protects us. We contribute to keeping the human species alive in some form, if we think about it at a really deep-rooted level. So studies show that chemicals released when volunteering are similar to those released when you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, or you do high-intensity exercise, or even some form of sexual activity. So these activities, as enjoyable as they can be for many people, are actually stressors that require the body to extend beyond what the status quo typically requires. So when we experience stressors, the body releases pain-relieving chemicals called endorphins to give us the strength that we need to actually keep going. That's why they call it runner's high as well. And you can probably understand it. We've kind of nicked that from, or they have, the psychologists nicked that from the runner's high for helper's high that we've got right now. So it's the pain relief that we get after an intense activity, and it feels good. A study at the National Institute of Health showed that when people thought about giving money to a charity, the areas of the brain associated with pleasure lit up in the same way that they do light up when people maybe thought about food or sexual activity. A similar study at Emory University showed that helping others does light up the pleasure and reward part of the brain, which is otherwise known as the nucleus accumbens. Now, there are other areas of the brain that are involved within that, but that is seen to be one of the main kind of areas that is activated within situations like that. So dopamine being that feel-good hormone is closely tied to pleasure and reward. So volunteering, it does help us to experience healthy amounts of dopamine. Could somebody get addicted to something like that? Well, potentially, but there's, of course, definitely worse things to be addicted to. But positive psychologist and founder of the PERMA+R model, or PERMA model, should I say actually, Martin Seligman, says that helping others is one of the core components for a happy life and a greater sense of well-being. So let's go much deeper into the science behind why giving and helping others should be in your considerations for long-term health. So the epigenome, or epigenetics, epi meaning above, and the genome being an organism's complete set of DNA. So most of our DNA can be found in the nucleus of cells, but also it can be found in the mitochondria as well, and you can see that on the right-hand image. So epigenetics is the study of how your behaviours and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. Unlike genetic changes, epigenetic changes are reversible and do not change your DNA sequence, but they can change how your body is able to read the DNA sequence. And epigenetic changes are vital to normal biological function and can affect natural cycles of cellular death, renewal, aging, and different lifestyles and behavioral factors such as diet, sleep, exercise, smoking, drinking. They affect the composition and the location of chemical groups that bind to our DNA. And environmental factors such as stress and trauma, or even our neighborhoods and our surrounding areas, may also have an impact as well. In order to understand what that means, it's important to know everyone has a genome, but many epigenomes, depending on the cell type, we have many epigenomes. The epigenomes in turn are influenced and changed by the environment, the living conditions, eating habits, as just mentioned. So like switches of a cell, they determine which genes or gene segments are used and which are switched off. So this explains, for example, why maybe identical twins can look different in slight nuances, or why only a sibling gets a disease even though both are genetically identical. So-called epigenetic markers are responsible for this at the molecular biological level. And epigenetic markers show when genes are turned on and off. So using that mental image of the epigenome as a switch, that silences parts of the genome, and you can kind of see that almost taking place on the right-hand side with that image. So the epigenetic markers are therefore the markings that determine the exact section to be silenced. One example of epigenetic changes is DNA methylation. The addition of methyl groups, or a chemical cap, the yellowy-orange shape there, to part of the DNA molecule. And this prevents certain genes from being expressed. Another example could be histone modification. Histones are proteins that DNA wrap around, so the balls that you can see on the image there. Epigenetic markers could lead to some diseases, various cancers, diseases that create intellectual disabilities, organ overgrowth, increase the chances of obesity, immunodeficiencies, depending on which genes are going to be impacted the most. I'm sure that most people, if they knew that they could do something to impact the very nature of their health in a positive way, that they would. Certainly if we knew that it can benefit us, certainly if we knew that it could benefit other people, and certainly if it could influence the health of our future generations. So when it comes to the impact of stress and what that can have, what that can mean for our genes, it's how those genes are read. It becomes difficult, and this is due to the markers that have been mentioned earlier, but it isn't just the genetic expression of one individual to be wary of, but the genetic expression changes and psychological concerns that can be passed on to future generations. You'll understand why there's that image that's appeared in a moment. So the official journal of the Institute for Laboratory Animal Research, so like a lot of research within a field that's fairly within its infancy, it begins with animal models. So they found that prenatal stress, maternal separation or deprivation, maternal care, infant abuse, juvenile social environment, and adult social stress have been found to have an effect on the epigenome and the DNA that is readable within animal models, specifically rodents. This is the power to have a neuroplasticity effect and can be quite damaging to the neuroendocrine system. In mice, epigenetic marks made on histones during infancy influences depression-like behavior during adulthood. They have found a drug that reverses the genomic tags, and it appears to undo the damage. So there is definitely some research, and there will continue to be some research in that area, which is quite promising. But more recent research is looking into the lifestyle medicine and the lifestyle medicine oriented approach to stress management in benefiting the epigenome. Unfortunately, lifestyle medicine oriented approaches to stress management are rarely offered in things like primary care. A deeper understanding of the epigenetics should then enable primary care providers and medical educators to more confidently advocate for the primary benefits associated with counselling in both stress reduction and the pursuit of healthy lifestyle choices. So essentially, watch this space. So helping others can increase happiness and reduce stress. Between work, money issues, family stress, and other obligations, it can be quite easy to feel overworked, frustrated, and burnt out. You may already be practicing stress relieving techniques like yoga or meditation, but there are other ways to relieve stress. You might not have tried every so often lending a helping hand to somebody in need, especially if you think at first, well, I don't have much time, and it's only going to make me feel, excuse me, more stressed and feel as though I'm under more pressure. But research has shown that helping others benefits your mental and your physical health. And a 2015 study published in the Clinical Psychological Science Journal, they found that helping others can relieve stress. And while it was a small study, the results were quite eye-opening. So 77 adults between the ages of 18 and 44, they participated in the study. And each night they received an automated call reminding them to complete a daily questionnaire. So the questionnaire asked the participants about stressful events in their day, such as their commutes, responsibilities at home and at work, and finances. And participants were also asked to keep track of their helpful behaviours and small acts of kindness that they did. And the emotions associated with these behaviours as well were also tracked. So the researchers found that participants who performed more daily acts of kindness were less likely to feel stressed on days when they could not complete any acts of kindness. And the study suggests that we can help ourselves manage stress and feel better by doing good deeds for other people. It's not just what we do for others as well, though. It's what we teach others by demonstrating these acts. And it's really teaching our children, grandchildren, and showing them that there is a benefit to this as well. Some of the epigenetic research that's out there looks into the power of the maternal behaviours on infants and how this really could be an area of life for which the epigenome is going to be influenced. So if you think about kindness being a bit of a phenomenon, it's not only rewarding for the recipient, but also the giver and the person given the act of kindness. So it's intrinsically rewarding to actually do this kind of behaviour. In fact, Dr. Martin Seligman, that I mentioned earlier, a founder of positive psychology, said doing an act of kindness produces the single most reliable momentary increase in well-being of any exercise that has been tested. So one of the best ways to increase our own happiness and improve our well-being is to do things that make other people happy. And what better way than giving up your time to support others and help others? So in countless studies, kindness and generosity have been linked to greater life satisfaction, stronger relationships, better mental and physical health, and generous people even been found to live longer. What's more, the happiness people derive from giving to others creates a positive feedback loop. So the positive feeling inspires further generosity, which in turn fuels greater happiness. And research suggests that kindness is truly contagious. So when we receive an act of kindness, we either want to repay it or pay it forward to the next person. So it'd be quite interesting to see, if people have got any experiences or any thoughts around that they might want to pass on via the Q&A. Okay. So volunteering could be a great way to be kind to other people. And researchers pulled a large amount of data from 40 scientific papers in the long-term effects of charity work, revealing that people who volunteered had their risk of dying reduced by as much as 22%. And the findings from the study showed that adults over the age of 50 who volunteered for at least 100 hours a year, which is around 2 hours a week, benefited from a large reduction in their risk of developing physical limitations and the risk of death. Later on in the study, they also had higher physical activity levels and improved senses of well-being compared to those that didn't volunteer. So the study shows that people who volunteer benefit not only from physical health, but also various improvements in their mental health, improved mood, improved confidence, self-worth, pride and gratification. And those who gave up their time to help others were less likely to suffer from things like depression, plus they had high levels of life satisfaction and general well-being. So there are definitely a few potential benefits for our health when it comes to volunteering. For our physical health, we might find that we increase our activity and our exercise with the volunteering that we do. We might adopt behaviours of healthy behaviours within our life at that point. We might increase physical resilience, functional independence, ability to cope with personal illnesses. We might expect improvements in life expectancy over time, and it might reduce the risk of high blood pressure, lessen symptoms of chronic pain, and reduce the risk of heart disease. Now, this is all taking into consideration what type of volunteering that we might do. Mentally, it might combat depression, it can reduce anxiety, it might lower stress levels, increase mental resilience, aid recovery from potential post-traumatic stress disorder. It provides structure and routine. It can provide learning opportunities which can protect mental health. And emotionally, it reduces feelings of isolation and boosts social connection. It increases emotional intelligence. It helps improve mood. It increases confidence and self-esteem. It increases motivation. It can provide a sense of achievement, and it can make you happy. Now, within a session similar to this, if it was longer, we could go into those points in much more detail and really, provide you with some research. But use those as points for considerations and things to think about moving forward as you continue the rest of your week and you go further into the Christmas period as well. So there are various ways to volunteer, to give your time to help others, for benefiting others and reaping the health rewards yourself. You could help the local church. You could run a sports team, maybe at grassroots level, or encourage knowledge generation. You could do some charity work. You could volunteer at a local event. You could work within your local council. You could work within your organisation as maybe a mental health first aider, or volunteer as mental health first aider, wellbeing lead in a walking group. You could volunteer at a food bank. You could volunteer maybe at an animal shelter, at a children's hospice, maybe community litter picking and a cleanup project. Again, there's many more that you could potentially do, and it would also be quite interesting to see what people currently do within their spare time, or if they've got any further suggestions as well. No, that's just to get you thinking. So today's session, only a short one. Hopefully it's given you some food for thought around the importance of giving and kindness, but also what it can do for us in terms of our psychology, but at a much deeper level as well, within our epigenome and what's going on there. If you want to leave any feedback for the session today, then you can do via the link, and we'll make that accessible to people. If you want to leave any feedback that way, it's more than welcome. Positive, constructive feedback. It just lets us know what you thought about the session, and if you've got any information you want to share as well, which might be quite helpful. But additionally, if you want to get in touch with ToHealth, then you can do so via the email address there. You can have a look at the website, and for all inquiries, then the number is on the slide as well, 01925 909 614. So you can get in touch that way. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can go on the YouTube page to take a look at the recording for this session, or you can pass on that recording for this session at a later date. DNA and epigenetic testing is also available via ToHealth. So if you want to have a look at the website and again get in touch, then you're more than welcome to do so. But thank you very much for attending today's session. Those that have joined us today, if you have any questions, anything you want to pass on, get in touch via the contacts that have just been mentioned there, and what's been mentioned in the Q&A. But thank you very much for attending. Enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your week, and enjoy your Christmas as well. So thank you.